Okay, so welcome to Health, Wealth and Happiness.
I'm James.
I'm Joe. Welcome to the show. Okay, so how do you go from working in UK national security and counter-terrorism to being the go-to name in luxury property in Dubai? Hopefully his next guest is going to shed some light. So Instagram sensation, vlogger, new father, co-founder and MD of luxuryproperty.com, Andrew Cummings. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. I feel like I should have that on my business card. It sounds way more impressive than what I know. Yeah.
So how are you?
Yeah, good. It's beautiful sunny weather outside here in Dubai. Obviously not allowed to go outside, but it would be a bonus if it were the case. But at least I'm sort of trying to keep my tan topped up.
Where in Dubai do you live?
So I live in Dubai Marina. So I actually had a long debate. We moved recently to a villa here in the Marina, and we had a long debate over whether to move sort of further out and get somewhere with a pool and a big garden. And we decided, no, we want to stay in the Marina because we've got all the restaurants and shops and all of our friends and things like this. Yeah, that in hindsight was probably not as good a reason to stay as we thought. But yeah, we're quite lucky. We've got fairly large space, big terrace, so it's quite a handy place to be during this lockdown.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So I'm sure our audience are intrigued, as am I, to be fair, about your background. So what's the story?
Sure. Well, growing up, I was always a nerd, always interested in, international affairs, politics, everything like this. Went to university and ended up doing a degree in biochemistry for some reason. Just sort of, don't know why. Definitely, within about 5 minutes, realised I don't want to be a biochemist, but it's a good degree to have on your CV, and if you can get a good grade, then it's handy to get employed. So did that, and then was going to join the police, and they have like a high potential development scheme thing that I was eyeing up, and then my best friend sort of said, that's not really what you want to do. Why don't you go do what you want to do? So I went back to do a master's in terrorism and security, which was much more my area of interest.
I'm assuming counter-terrorism.
Well, no, the master's was in terrorism. So
okay.
I left the threat rather than the.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I sort of did my master's in that, and then I applied for a thing called the Civil Service Fast Track in the British government. So it's a highly competitive scheme to get onto basically their sort of fast track. They get about 20,000 applicants every year. I think they take 100, 200, something like that. I've genuinely no clue how I got in. I'm northern, so maybe it was a diversity issue or a mistake in the paperwork.
Where are you from?
I'm from. My family's from Grimsby, but if I'm speaking to most people, my family are from Lincolnshire. So it sounds so posh.
I was about to say you've not kept a Grimsby accent.
I think I definitely Northerners can still spot the fact that I say bath, I say glass, I still do that.
It sounds like you dodged a bullet anyway. So it sounds like.
My wife, who's from Surrey, basically always goes on about her daughter that she hopes that she gets her genuine accent as opposed to my fake posh accent. So I think that's basically what I'm sort of hoping for. I think
we'll gang up on Joe today, then, Andrew. You and I, yeah. Yeah,
exactly. Years of sort of whittles it away over time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I went into this this fast track scheme, and I just done this masters in terrorism. I was like, great, what am I going to be doing? And the genius of the British government actually put me into the Department for Transport. So my first job was I did a few months in the team that does the presidency of the EU when we were doing that back in the day. And then a few months later, I went into the highly exciting world of parking. So I was actually in the traffic management division of the Department for Transport. Super sexy work in the British government, and exactly really where my live streams were going for.
I bet that won you some friends down the local pub.
Well, interestingly, one of the things that I did when I was there is I helped write the statutory guidance that banned clamping on certain public roads. So I feel as if I did some good there.
The Robin Hood of the parking world, is that what it were?
Yeah, look, it's a heavy place to work. It's hot, it's sexy, it's just good fun. My boss at the time, lovely lady, was sort of nearing 60, just wanting to retire, and had this sort of young, energetic guy who just wanted to like rule the world, and effectively just said, yeah, you go chair all these meetings, you go do this. So from a skills perspective, it was a great experience in terms of broadening my skill set, but obviously not where I wanted to be. So from there, I then moved over to the Treasury, where I worked in basically the financial crime unit that dealt with anti-money laundering, but I focused on both sanctions with places like Iran and effectively counter-terrorist asset freezing. So that was where I first sort of got involved in the counter-terrorism side. And then from there, I was heading up a team that was dealing with the prevent agenda, so counter-radicalization, de-radicalization. And then from there, I got into the job that I really loved, which was basically heading up the Middle East, North Africa, and North America team within the National Security Council for the Prime Minister. So that was the fun stuff. It's bit
Imagine that being very interesting.
Yeah, look, yeah, like it was super cool, but also super boring. Ultimately, you're still a bureaucrat, you're a civil servant, and it's a bit weird. But a huge privilege to be able to have done a number of the things I've done. In and out of Number 10 every day. I've been to the White House a number of times, had lunch in the West Wing with the National Security Advisor. I once attempted to get into the Oval Office when President Obama was away by coming out of a bathroom, walking round towards it, because I just wanted to set foot in it. And then Secret Service were like, where are you going? And I put on the most frightfully posh British accent. And then they're sort of like, oh, no problem, sir, just back here. And I'm like, oh, thank you very much. I was like, please don't shoot me. You got to do some like crazy things. I was there during the Arab Spring and everything like that. And, got involved in the British response for that. So, pretty much exactly what I'd always wanted to do.
Did you ever fly into these? Did you actually go to these high-risk places?
Well, so in that job, not really. When you're in government, I went to Yemen, I went to Syria, this was pre-Arab Spring, fortunately. I went to Lebanon, I went to a few places. I was due to go to Iran, but that was at the time of the 2009 Green Revolution. And I was basically due to fly in a week after the election. And then obviously my visa got cancelled because it wasn't an ideal time to go. And then I was back and forth to the US a little bit in Brussels and things like this. But it was actually one of my next jobs that I ended up going to a lot more dangerous places, which still not quite sure how I ended up doing that.
Well, just chiming in here, like with this role, then what are your biggest stories? With the counter-terrorism side of things, are there any sort of stories that spring to mind that you still remember these days?
What you can tell without disappearing.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
There's a lot. They're all classified, so like it's they won't be coming out. Like I suppose try and think of the stuff that you can sort of talk about. I think really.
We should have had a few beers before this. Really.
Fascinating stuff, I think, around the efforts to bring about the Iran nuclear deal at an early stage. There's some really interesting things around that. But the Arab Spring obviously was a huge thing. We were working constantly. You read in the press now that Cobra is working and NSC is working things. We were basically we actually moved from our offices down into Cobra and set up our offices in Cobra to be there 24/7 because we were having that many meetings of it. Again, it's one of those funny things where you look back and you're like, I can't believe I didn't do more to sort of log that. Like, I never kept a diary, and I sort of I remember that my position is I would basically sort of be one of the minute takers in the National Security Council meeting, and it would be the senior people, 2 people go in, and you think, oh God, you just want to be in every meeting. But taking minutes of these is quite tough, and the writing up, because you have to write them like cabinet minutes, it's very formal. And after a while, you're sort of like, can't bother to do that. I can watch it on the screen from the ante room, and you go do it. You feel it's good. So you sort of like devolve that off. But just the whole situation, how quickly it was unraveling. I remember when Egypt was falling and Mubarak was in trouble, and the Prime Minister, who was David Cameron at the time, was at a meeting, I think, in Brussels. And his private secretary was with him. I was in the UK, and in London, and it was happening so fast that I was literally sending messages to the Prime Minister every like 15 minutes, where normally you distill it into these briefings and stuff. But this was just that his private secretary was like, look, just send me like two-line updates as quick as you can, and I'll just show the phone to the PM, because it was moving that quickly, and the pace, and you know, there's always this discussion about what role we have to play in the world as the UK and the West. But ultimately, in these situations, you're powerless. You know, you're trying to do some influence where you can, but there are so many forces at play, so many things happening. You're just doing your best to keep up, rather than sort of advance anything further.
Yeah, I moved to Abu Dhabi in February 2010. So it was just before, so a lot of the Arab Spring kicked off. Because I remember, I think it was Libya 2010?
It started 2011,
yeah. So there was Libya and Egypt and yeah, I read up a lot. I'm a lot younger then as well, to be fair, but I read up a lot of it back then, and so it must be really interesting, obviously, being involved in all that, and stressful as well, I imagine.
Yeah, it's just exciting. It's busy. Like, you feel very, very important. Like, you're not probably really, you're interchangeable. Just put someone else in the job. But yeah, it's great to have sort of seen that up front, and quite interesting now. I read a lot of these, probably a few like nerdy books behind me, like about you know, what's happening in the world and stuff. And you read those, and you're reading like, you know, the Chief of the Defence Staff's view of what happened on Libya, or David Cameron, and then you're sitting there going, I don't remember it going like that. I remember that meeting being more this focused, and you're like, oh, it's quite cool to be, you know, to have been involved in some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So you find yourself into a position where it's extremely exciting. It was always on the go. You found, you know, you got into a position that you're very good at what you do. What made you want to transition into property from being, you know, counterterrorism? You know,
money. I left the civil service at the end of 2012 because there were a lot of austerity going on in the UK government, and effectively that had massively reduced the opportunities. So I was in this unbelievable job. I've been in it for 3 years, and you sort of can't stay in a role in the civil service for that long or much longer. So I decided to basically move and do something different. And an opportunity came up through some of the work I've done to go work for one of the royal families here in this region. Basically giving advice on their response to the Arab Spring. So, you know, it was a huge decision, you know, to leave. You know, you're in a very secure job. I was earning, I think, £55,000 a year or something, which, you know, but as you age, sounds great when you're young, but as you age and you're living in London, doesn't add up too much when you're seeing your friends earning significantly more. So I took the risk, and I basically went freelancing for a year, working for this for this government in the Gulf region, and was doing that for a year. And then after that was like, I should probably get a real job again. So at that point, I still only really had sort of my skill set of, you know, I was conditioned. I was like, well, I'm a government person. I work on these type of issues. What else could I do? You know, I was the first person in my family to go to, you know, university. First person, I think, to do A-levels. Like, I didn't really have much guidance in terms of what's open to you. I didn't think you could do wholesale career changes. So I basically went into sort of management consultancy, but in the developing world. So I was doing a lot of you know, aid projects, basically, you know, funded by the World Bank, the British government, you know, wherever it was, and you know, public sector governance, you know, local government reform, you know, security sector reform, whatever it was. And that was where I was in countries like, I did regularly in Somalia, Iraq, Afghanistan, South Sudan were my sort of sweet spots, and a little bit involved in Syria, but more those countries. So I was half living in South Sudan for a while, which, yeah, sort of, again, was another segue, which was quite interesting. And again, a different type of skill set. But I think I did that for 5 years, nearly 4 or 5 years. And actually,
living in South Sudan?
No, so I was living in London, but I was basically, all my projects were overseas. So, for example, I think in 1 6-month period, I was basically like 3 weeks in South Sudan, 3 weeks back at home, 2 weeks in South Sudan. Then I was, then I'd basically have, I'd go to Iraq for a long weekend. I'd go to Afghanistan for a couple of weeks. I'd be, you know, back in Somalia. Somalia I kind of liked. Like, it's got really beautiful beaches. And if you don't get eaten by the sharks that are just off
Stolen by pirates.
Yeah, and there's one really challenging part of again, different security levels, really weird. Like, in Afghanistan, we were very low key. So like we'd be in a Toyota SUV with a driver, and you just sit in the back and slump a bit, so you're not very visible, because the Taliban basically would take the approach of spotting the big armored thing and trying to pop a magnet bomb on it. Whereas in somewhere like Iraq, you had a 3-car armored convoy. In Somalia, you had an armored car with basically a little militia force behind you on a pickup truck to protect you. And then in South Sudan, it was basically just driving yourself around. But the danger levels were so different in each, that you felt safe in some places you shouldn't, and felt unsafe in places that you should. But like, again, it was quite cool at times. I had a gun pulled on me in South Sudan once by a drunk South Sudanese guy pretending to be in the army, wanting money, and I denied that. I don't have any money, all of this stuff. And it was only when he cocked the weapon that I was like, here you go, take the cash. I was like, I don't care. And I gave him the equivalent of $2. And he was happy about that. I actually had about $200 on me at the time, that I pulled from in the fold, the middle note, and it was like something that he found acceptable. Whereas
he pulled a gun on you for $2.
Yeah, like look, the poverty again, like the poverty in some of these places. In South Sudan, in some of the areas, in the capital, you have a lot of you do have a few roads and things like this, but there's a lot of dirt tracks. When you go out of the capital, I remember going up to a place called Malakal, and it's just a fascinating place. Like, it's just desolate, and people are there, they're just living in mud huts, and there's nothing, and the value of money, that's on a subsistence living is just totally different. And it is fascinating when you're over in these type of countries, and the contrast with obviously somewhere like Dubai, which is slightly the opposite.
Well, as I say, the two, counterterrorism and all these stories that you had is completely the polar opposite to what you're doing right now with luxury properties. And we had the fortunate to watch some of your videos, which were blown away by. What was the big driver for you to, obviously you said about, spreading your wings, taking on your own project sort of thing. Was that the main driver for you, taking it another level?
Well, it was, I'd moved over here with that company to set up an office, basically, where we were going to do more normal consulting work in places like Saudi and the UAE, where I get to wear a suit and not worry about being blown up, and probably earn more. And I met my business partner, and we got on really well. Decided to set this up together. I suppose the thing that drove me was I'd never had some sort of fascination with owning my own business or anything like that. I don't think of myself as a particularly entrepreneurial person. I think there's been a couple of pivot points in my life when I've made big jumps that have done that. I just saw an opportunity to sort of I thought we could run this well, and I thought I'd be able to do the job well. A lot of people had told me in the past that I'd be very good at sales, because I'd got the gift of the gab or whatever. But I'd never thought I could get a job in sales. That's not what my background was. It's not what I'd been conditioned to think was a good job, and so on and so forth. But you sit and you realize you can earn a lot of money if you're a good real estate agent. You realize that actually it's just about talking to people and convincing people, and that was one of the things I was good at. And being knowledgeable, it's not hard. There's only so many products to learn. You should know everything pretty well. So in many ways it was that, and it was the opportunity to sort of try to do something that was more interesting. 1 second.
It's fine.
Well, it's raw, it's uncut. That's no problem.
So it was really a sort of an opportunity to do something different, and I just thought, like, let's do it. I love Dubai. I wanted to live here. Like, the real estate sector's vibrant, and it was for me a chance to sort of spread my wings and give it a try.
Okay. So did it start as... Okay, so is it exclusively the high-end luxury properties that you do, or is it all across the market?
The brand, of course, the core of what we do is luxury. So, you know, the aim was to create a luxury brand that would resonate here in Dubai and globally. And that is the bulk of what we do. That said, you know, we'll sell anything. You know, so like, you know, if you've got a 1 million dirham property, you know, 150,000 pounds or whatever, you know, we'll sell it. You know, there's no issue with that. You know, we do rentals in this current market. Of course, you've got to adapt and change and do what's needed. But the core, of course, of the brand is that it's around luxury products, and that's where we want the future of the business to be. But, you know, equally, you've got to deal with the clients that you have, and, you know, you've got to respond to their needs. So you've got to do everything from selling, you know, high-end, you know, mansions through to delivering off-plan products for them, giving them good investment advice on their portfolios, doing renovations and flipping, you know, doing rentals and things like that. So, you know, pretty much a whole service brokerage, but just with a very, very pretty brand that sort of, you know, obviously gets a lot of eyes on it.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the, if you can share this, what's the highest ticket unit that you've sold?
So it was just under $19 million. So it's 69 million dirhams, which I'm not sure what that is in pounds with the current market.
Dollars. It's probably about 90 million pounds at the minute.
Not off, you know, which was a 36,000 square foot house on like an acre of plots, like, you know, very, very luxurious. And yeah, that's the biggest. The smallest, I think, was about £250,000. So, like, you know, sell anything. Like, you know, the job is to sell, is to deliver deals, and, like, you know, it doesn't really matter what they are. You know, what they are.
Yeah. Okay. So what made you come up with the idea, or how did you get into social media to start raising awareness?
Yeah, well, look, I was never on it before. I didn't really do much social media, like, work-wise before. But I'd seen what a lot of other realtors were doing, and it made sense to sort of try get involved in that. And I think once you are doing it, then it's the case of, you know, you've got to bring out your natural personality within that. And that's sort of, for me, like, I speaking to my team the other day and trying to tell them, like, you know, if you're going to have, you know, a work sort of Instagram, don't just make it boring like a corporate thing, because no one's going to follow that. You know, people follow people. And I think when I went to do my first vlog, I envisaged this sort of quite sophisticated vibe, you know, educational, and, you know, people would be like, wow, yeah, he's really good. And yeah, I ended up jumping on a trampoline and stuff. Like, it was like, you just sort of drift into it and it's like, oh, that's quite cool. And then you just sort of go with it because, you know, I find it funny. So maybe other people find it funny, and it's different. Yeah, everybody goes around doing, you know, welcome to this property. It's like, yeah, it's just boring, isn't it? So, like, you just got to try to make it a little bit more engaging.
Yeah, that's what I really like about your videos. Your natural humor shines through on it, and I think it's a very British humor you've got as well.
It's definitely very British, and I always want to
Have you had any media training?
No.
Oh, really?
Well, I had media training in terms of, you know, I used to work a lot with the media in terms of, like, writing press things and stuff like that, but never in terms of how you do stuff to camera or something like that. I think I think it's pretty much you're either natural at doing it or you're not. And, you know, like, we've got one really good real estate agent, Liam Jeffrey, who I hired because of his YouTube. You know, he was doing this thing. He was in his bedroom in a t-shirt like this, you know, just giving a market update. And you know, he'd done a couple of tours where he got a bit of production, and I was like, that's really quite cool. I remember the first time in the office, I was like, right, we're going to do one, and this is what I want you to do. And he was there, and he was basically, he had this script, and he was basically like, kept stumbling after every line. He'll hate me for saying this. And in the end, I walked in, I was like, for God's sake, and I screwed up the script and said, you sell this every day. You don't need a script. You know what you're selling. If the camera was a client, you wouldn't be stumbling over your wording and things like this. So effectively, you know, he has come on leaps and bounds now, and he's brilliant. Like, you watch his videos now, there's great levels of detail. It's got his personality in there. I think I convinced him to take his shirt off and dive into a pool on one of them, you know, to try and increase his following. So, you know, again, you have to basically do what suits you. He's very good at going on all about the detail of the types of marble and the exact specifications of the kitchen and really bringing that to life. I'm not. I'm better at sort of like doing something a bit more stupid, trying to sort of make it more about entertainment, with the view that you're still showing the property, you're still showcasing the property, but you're hopefully doing it in a way that someone will remember it more. And that's going to be successful. Some people will like it, some people won't like it. But you can't. I think if you're too bland, no one's gonna watch
you. You spoke about your social media and everything that's getting your personality across that people connect to. With your background in the UK and everything else, do you think that connects really well to the sort of luxury element of what you sell?
Well, what's really weird is my entire sort of background was very much behind the scenes. You're never the front person on any of this stuff. You're never allowed to comment publicly or do anything. It's been really nice to be able to actually express your voice and do things that are more out there. I think one of the advantages my background gives me is that I'm very used to dealing with not necessarily high net worth individuals, but important people. So we get clients who are very, very wealthy. They're very successful, very busy, and for a lot of agents, that can be quite intimidating. They can allow themselves to be treated like a member of the staff, and not have the confidence to sort of tell a client no, or tell a client you're being stupid, or this is a terrible decision. I think I've got so much experience of dealing with the most important people. I don't care if you've got £3 billion. I've met people more important than you. And I've spoken to them and had to be honest with them. So there's no fear of not being an equal. And I think that if you are a professional at your job, you shouldn't think of yourself as anything less than you are. You're an expert at what you do, and this person might be worth $1 billion, but they're not a real estate. They don't know the Dubai real estate market. You know more than them on this product. Now, don't go and speak to them about their hedge fund, but on this product, you know what you're talking about. So I think you've got to have confidence, and I think my background has helped to provide that.
That's certainty, and that certainty sells, doesn't it? Yeah. Love that. For you and your social media and everything you're doing, which is really interesting, we're watching a few videos. Do you model anyone, or do you have anyone you are inspired by when you create your content like that, or is it just Andrew Cummings?
I'd love to claim it was just me. That'd be awesome. But again, I don't think I'm that creative or entrepreneurial. I think when I originally started out, I'm a big fan of $1 Million Listing. I think the show's great. My business partner, Jason, actually was on one of the seasons in LA selling his house and shouting at Josh Flagg down the phone back in the day. I watched that show, and it's interesting to see those personalities. I've seen a few of one of the realtors there, Ryan Serhant's vlogs as well. And again, I think when I started, I was sort of modeling myself on, wow, I could be like that. But actually, it just diverged after vlog 1. I think the difference is so many realtors, including him, have such an emphasis on self-improvement, on all this stuff. Everybody is talking about how to have the eye of the tiger and be the best salesman and all of this stuff. And it's just not me. It's just not me. I don't want to talk about sales techniques. I've never had any sales training. I don't know how to sort of talk about mindset and positivity. It's just I'm the total opposite of that person. My wife will go on at me about you've just got to think this way, and I'm like, no, I'm very annoyingly logical and practical. So there's no sort of rah, let's all do this stuff. It doesn't work for me. So the direction I went was totally opposite, I think. So whilst there were inspirations in terms of my decision to start doing this, I think as soon as I started, actually, I felt that I knew which direction I wanted to go, and it was innovative, I hope, and wasn't really related to anything anyone else was doing.
Okay. So you mentioned your wife. I know you also have a 7-week-old daughter.
Yes.
How's fatherhood treating you?
It's good. My wife's actually just walked in over there, so I've got to say everything positive now, I think. No, look, it's been really nice with this lockdown to have a chance to be at home more. I'm still incredibly busy at the moment. So sort of from the second I wake up until dinner time, I'm working. And my wife is tremendous in terms of looking after the baby while I'm doing that. And I quite like that after dinner, sort of it's my time, and I get her till 2-3 a.m. or whatever, which hopefully is normally her sleeping on me. But yeah, it starts hard. I think like it's really weird. You just suddenly have this human that you've got to look after, and you're like, who are you? Like, it's still really weird that she's got a name. She's just a baby. Like, you just look at her. And my nickname is probably quite cool. I call her Stupid Baby because like, she can't even lift her head up. She can't do anything. I still find it crazy that even has made.
Your wife loves that.
Yeah.
Most animals in the world come out the womb and then they're up running, protecting themselves from predators. And what do our babies do? Just nothing. Like, evolution is weird. It's fascinating. But yeah, look, it's really good. I'm looking forward to, obviously, as the world opens up, being able to let her meet some people. Maybe meet other babies and stuff like that. So that's going to be quite cool.
I guess that's an easy question for us to go on to. COVID-19, how are you adapting? What are things looking like for you?
Well, look, we moved very, very quickly to remote working. I think I'm a nerd. I said I did biochemistry. My dissertation actually for my undergraduate degree was in the Ebola virus and tropical diseases. So like I was quite interested in it from an early stage. We switched to working from home very early and switched to trying to ensure that we were geared up in terms of our capability to work from home, our capability to do remote viewings, virtual viewings. Look, the crisis is incredibly difficult. As a business and as realtors, it's a commission-only business. If you can't sell a property or rent a property, you can't earn any money, and you've got overheads. So, it's putting a tremendous strain on the industry. It's still too early, I think, to see what the long-term impacts will be. In many ways, you've seen huge declines in some parts of the market, but equally, you've seen increased interest in some parts. Luxury rentals is through the roof. I've got loads of clients that want to move out of an apartment into a villa. Find something with a garden, whatever it is. So there's definitely been changes in the trends, and it'll be interesting to see if that tracks through in the long term. Obviously, Dubai is a very expat city. It's an international city, and not having those international buyers able to come in. I've got a great client who's a British sports person that was due to come out and now can't. And that's a guaranteed sale that's now not going to happen until whenever it happens. So it's very challenging, both in terms of the business and in terms of doing that, but also in terms of keeping people motivated. We've got a team. They're stuck in their apartments. They can't get out and do viewings. It's very frustrating for them. They're worried about their own money. So, as a business owner, you've got a responsibility to try as best you can, keep people motivated, keep people engaged. But, it's incredibly difficult. But I don't ultimately think that it's any different for us than it is for, a number of different industries out there.
Yeah. Okay. And what's your view on pushing back Expo 2020? Obviously, I know it needed to happen. Do you think that'll have an effect on the market?
Well, look, I never thought that Expo 2020 was a big thing for the market anyway. There will be a bit of a boost around certain areas. There'll be a lot more eyes on Dubai, but Dubai is already a very well-known place. And it's not like people don't know about what's here. Maybe people don't know about the real estate opportunities here, and how it is to live here, which I think that would have given some insight to. I think the main thing is if we looked at the first quarter of this year, the first 2 months, and the last 2 months of last year, we'd already seen a huge increase in the number of transactions. The market sentiment was really turning from negative to positive, and there were great opportunities for business. Sales figures were up, transactions were up. Even if prices were still a bit depressed. I'm hoping that sentiment will come back, and that having Expo as a thing that's out there will be something that will give a boost next year. So look, it's the right decision to move it, and I think that there will be a bit of an impact. But I don't think Expo is a sort of a one-shot boost save all. It's just a shot of adrenaline.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the next step for yourself and for the company once we come out of this?
Good question. Look, we've got at the moment, I think there's a short-term imperative. The second you can get out there, and even before then, get deals done. We need deals. Everyone needs. As a business, we need revenue. As brokers, they need to earn a living. The focus has to be on to be really structured. and to really make sure that we're providing a good service for every single client to make sure that we get those deals over the line. Sort of more broadly then, it's, I think, continued expansion. We've grown our team hugely. With now, I think, 25 brokers. I want to grow that more. I want to really start to specialize in some of the areas where we're being successful, improve our market share in that. I want to continue to establish the brand. We are still, I think we're now getting a good track record. We've obviously received a number of awards. We've started to get some prominence, but still we're new. We don't have the name recognition of some of the really big companies. So that's a key priority for me, is to improve our name recognition.
How long have you been running for?
Just over 2 years. But look, as a startup, it was a couple of people in a room, trying to figure it out. You sort of have that first year. We did a lot to put in place the building blocks for success. So we never sort of actively went out and pushed ourselves because we wanted it to be organic. I think there's opportunities to sort of really step forward there, but also look at our international portfolio. We market billions of dollars globally on behalf of developers. We work with our agents, we have people in different countries, and that's something that I really want to expand upon, because there's a huge opportunity. We're the most visited real estate website in Dubai after the portals. There's a lot of debate on this, which I see online, which I don't get involved in, because it's just a bit pointless. It's only us that can see our Google Analytics, and I can see what traffic we get. So we get great international traffic, great buyers coming from that. I'm working with a South African at the moment who wants to buy Mauritius. I'm really keen to continue to build our portfolio of properties from the rest of the world. We've just tied up a partnership with one of the biggest real estate brokers in LA. And we're looking to expand that as well. So that's the thing. I think internationally, I want to start to establish us as one of the go-to places if you want a luxury home anywhere in the world. And then in Dubai, to increase our market share and to continue to be seen as one of the best people to work with if you're wanting to buy or sell your home.
Fantastic. $1 million question for you here. If you had your time again, 18-year-old Andrew Cummings, what would you do?
Probably lose weight. Get into a gym routine that I could actually stick to. Eat less. There's a reason why I don't. I think we're not going to go back to work quickly in the office, because there is no chance that I can fit into anything that's not elasticated. I'm very comfortable in shorts and a t-shirt nowadays, and I think that needs to stay. It's really, really, really difficult. Nothing. Because I just think that you don't. I've had great experiences. There's lots of little things that I can change, but those inflection points that I mentioned earlier. The decision to leave the civil service and move gave me an unbelievable opportunity that I never anticipated would then leave somewhere else. The decision to work for the consulting firm meant that on a flight back from Afghanistan via Dubai, I met what is now my business partner. So there's just everything, the sliding doors have happened, has put me in this position to be doing something that I never had any desire or interest. I'd never sat around thinking I wanted to be an estate agent. Good God, that was definitely not what the direction of travel. But this, it's ended up having a business that I really love, and I think that if you go back and change anything, I think I wouldn't be where I am today. And there's every decision when I tried to get a particular job and I was gutted I didn't get it in the civil service. It was I wanted to move from the job I was in to be the private secretary to the Prime Minister, and I came second in it. I was gutted and it's this is it, this is that. But that made me leave. That made me say, well, that was the job I wanted. I don't want to do less than I'm doing, so I'm going to leave. And that led to the next stage, and so on and so forth. So I think there's nothing big ticket. I think I would change. Personal life, probably loads of stuff, but wise, not too much.
Okay. All right. So how do the listeners find you?
Well, look, first things first, go on luxuryproperty.com. It's very easy to remember the company name because it is luxuryproperty.com. In case you didn't catch it, it's luxuryproperty.com. And then if you are on Instagram, my handle is @DubaiLuxuryBroker. So you should be able to find me there. And then you can just look at Andrew Cummings on YouTube as well. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not really on Facebook. I think I do have a TikTok, but I've not started doing that yet because I don't think I can do all the dance moves that I think seems to be what TikTok at Dubai Luxury Broker on Instagram. It's the best way to keep up to date with what type of properties we're putting up, but also just stupid things where I'm like, rapping Dr. Dre to my daughter. So like, it's a good mixture of content.
Right, okay. I've not seen that video. I'll have a look at that. Right, Andrew, thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah, all the best.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Cheers.